Danny Phantom was the second best superhero show to come out in 2004. I'm certainly a fan of the franchise, and believe me when I say there are tons of Danny Phantom fans on deviantart. And in this video, I'm going to be giving my top 10 list of Danny Phantom fans within the deviantart community. Majin Lord. He has 39 watchers, 30k page views, and 3.1k deviations. Star Omega. He has 49 watchers, 24.8k page views, and 83 deviations.
Desires Chapter 1. The trigger. Another normal night for Danny Phantom fighting a ghost Jin in the night sky of Amity Park. Meanwhile, down in the park, his girlfriend Sam and his best friend Tucker were fighting a teenage rock ghost with fire hair, all with the fate of the city in your hands. Yes, another normal night. Danny Phantom, the hero on a world scale, flew wearing his new updated suit, dodging Desiree's attacks and avoiding saying the word desire by accident. He already knew well what that implied. Ghostly plasma lasers and impact sounds illuminated the sky over the main park where Amber and Desiree had built a stage. The public ran out of the battle zone. Even so, a couple of people stayed to record or take pictures of the moment. Not every night you can see the great hero of the earth saving his hometown. On stage, Sam and Amber had to sword duel with a guitar and a Fenton stick. This is my return concert. Get out. Amber bangs hard, making Sam stagger a little but remains firm. Don't tell me, are you sure this won't end up like the previous concert and the one before that one? Sam said after pushing her opponent back. The same with Desiree. We can literally put an end to it by just ordering it. Sam showed the mocking smile and kicked her opponent in the shoulder. Amber was almost knocked down, but she smiled to laugh. Now that you can fool, she attacked, and Sam blocked her. Then she brought his face closer to Sam. Soon the whole East Coast will be madly in love with us. We will be like goddesses to them on the sky over the forest. You can't stop us, kid. I've been giving wishes for weeks to load a cannon with the lust and passion of hundreds of you selfish humans, Desiree said, as she tried to hit Danny. He blocked her without a problem and returned strong counterattacks. You say that we are selfish and greedy, and your way of demonstrating your superiority is being equal? It's called poetic justice. I call it hypocrisy. And with a shot of plasma knocked it down, it fell to collide with some trees. Then he touched the intercom in his ear. Hey Tuck, tell me how you going with that on the stage. It's complicated, Danny. This cannon is perfectly synchronized with the satellite. If I do not decode it carefully, it could explode half the city. The youngest mayor of Amity Park hacked with difficulty the pink cannon supercharged with ghostly energy. I think I have it. Yes, now. I just diverted a little towards the empty space and crashed before Tucker could finish. Sam fell directly on her back on the computer, breaking it, ruining the connection and hacking work. Amber had kicked her with such force that she fell back down. The show is over. For you fans, time for the final solo. Amber prepared her guitar, ready to launch an attack. Then Sam sat down and took out a mini Fenton tear grenade from her jacket, one with a special gas that stuns the ghosts, which she threw and burst into Amber's face, distracting her for a few seconds. In the second, Tucker took out the Fenton thermos and he shot it at the ghost, trapping it well. That's one less problem, Sam sighed. But we have a more serious one, Tucker replied. His computer was damaged and they no longer had a way to stop the cannon. Better start improvising. Danny, can you copy me? Yes. I lost Desiree. How are you? We have no link to the cannon. Any ideas? I'm going half a kilometer from the stage. Danny floated above some trees, ending his communication with Tuck. He took momentum in the air and flew at high speed to where his friends were. Among the trees, Desiree was hiding, listening carefully to what her enemy was talking about. She was frustrated because the boy never used the word desire, which would give him the absolute advantage over him. But the boy already had enough experience fighting with her to learn when to keep his mouth shut. 2 years ago you would fall in my trap, boy, murmured the ghost with resentment. The boy had been a pain in her neck since she met him the day she was released from that bottle 2 years ago. He frustrated her plan to torment the humanity more than 10 times. Why did he care? He was just a teenager who casually obtained phantom powers. What obligation did he have to defend other humans? For the little she knew about him, he was a social outcast, just like his friend, yearning for trivial acceptance of others. I guess you've matured a little. Desiree took flight and followed Danny with stealth and speed to surprise him. But she kept thinking, being rejected by those of your age, full of ambitions that any boy your age would have, you could rule your small society without any problems, but you are dedicated to protecting these selfish and hypocritical beings. I know better. I was like them once. Then the djinn began to remember her tragic past life, thousands of years ago, when she was a Harlem dancer making a living for her good looks, until that day came, when she danced to the delight of that sultan, and without wishing it, she stole her heart. The sultan bought it and brought it to her kingdom with the promise of granting any wish her heart desires. That was the first time in her life that Desiree saw someone offer to fulfill her wishes, without asking anything in return, or so she thought. When the sultan's wife found out, she expelled her without hesitation. The sultan did nothing. He could even have them both. It was legal at the time, but in the end she was only an object for him, something he could discard without problems. But surely you will betray them sooner or later, the woman said through her teeth, returning to reality. Back to the stage. Well guys, I'm here, Danny announced, floating right next to the Great Pink Canyon. The people who were still near there encouraged the hero to stop what was happening. There aren't many options, Dan. You're going to have to push the cannon and redirect it before it shoots. I understand, Tuck. Danny put his hands on the gun and pushed with all his might, but he needed more strength. Just when he least needed it, Danny was trapped by Desiree's gigantic green hand, which had suddenly appeared emerging from the stage floor. Without breaking it, along with her hand came out of nowhere cyan blue smoke, which surrounded Sam and Tucker and turned in circles to become the tail of Desiree, wrapping and immobilizing them. Desiree manifested itself in the form of a giant about 9 meters high. With the trio at his mercy, I saved a little of the energy from wishes for a case like this. Now you are mine, said, looking at her. Praise. Does this bring you memories, boy? He scoffed at the genius, looking at her hostage in his hand. Yet, our first fight. Such memories, said the annoyed boy, trying to move his arms inside his enemy's hand. Just like that occasion, he could not disappear or become intangible. Tuck. Do you reach the thermos? Sam said that, trying to get free. In vain. No. I dropped it. He was trying to reach the thermos with his feet. Well, Desiree, in the cast. Danny could not finish speaking. A green smoke that came directly from the skin of the giant hand wrapped around his face, covering his mouth, so he could not wish it all to end. She did the same with Sam and Tucker. Did you think you were the only one who got better at this? Don't underestimate me, child. Now everyone is going to love me, as it always should have been. This time I will get what I desire. I will fill this void inside me. Are you not interested in knowing what that is? The last thing she asked, she said it, while lying on her side on the stage, holding Sam and Tuck in the air with her tail and bringing Danny to her face. Danny felt a little confused by the ghost's question. Someone with your life, having your power, would do what he wanted, would have the city at his feet. Why don't you use your power for your own mundane needs? Just accept your selfishness and leave us alone to others. Ghosts, let us punish these humans. Now you are famous. Everyone respects you, that's half the work. She put on an almost lascivious look, trying to get to Danny's nerve. Danny analyzed the situation. He was surprised that Desiree especially asked those things. The first person who asked him those ideas was Vlad, who tried to corrupt him years ago. But Desiree had never spoken to him so directly without threatening him with death. But above all, his speech, her smile, her gaze, it was seductive. Danny stayed a couple of seconds looking at that huge face. It was green, almost translucent, red eyes, a lot of black hair covering half of his face. Sounds scary. Of course she is a ghost, but he was already used to them. This time he noticed something. Her fractions, her lips, they were beautiful. Her cheeks were not sunk like most ghosts. They still retained their flesh. Surely she was a beauty in life. But then the huge hand began to press the boy's body, pulling him out of his thoughts. "Well, you will answer me when you are my personal slave," said the ghost, watching as her cannon was preparing to shoot. Already on a small monitor on the side of the canyon, it showed some numbers: 50, 49, 48. The gun count had begun. They had to do something. Blast. A bolt of energy hit Desiree on the shoulder, making her angry. "Hands off my son!" Maddie Fenton entered the scene with her usual plasma bazooka, followed by her husband. "Just in time for the show, dear," Jack said, preparing the Fenton thermos. Danny tried to break free. His son obeyed, managing to reach the button of his wrist, which activates a teaser in the chest of his suit, which electrified Desiree's arm, causing her to release at 30:29. Danny wasted no time and went straight to the cannon to push it, but he was not strong enough. Desiree was hurt and confused. The energy that kept her as the giant was running out. She accidentally released Tucker and Staff, then saw Danny on the cannon. 2019. Still confused by the teaser, she barely dodged the Fenton thermal beam, and awkwardly lay on top of the barrel opposite Danny's, preventing him from moving it further. 10-9-8. Danny had almost no strength. So go Fenton rocket boots. From the soles of Danny's boots came blue flames that propelled the boy. Desiree did not expect it. The force was such that he tilted the cannon along with her, leaving her head right over the mouth of the gun. 3-2-1. A large pink ray hit hard on the face of the ghost. The force was such that it took the giant flying over the whole park and the outskirts of the city until it hit one of the mountains several kilometers away, leaving the crater in the mountain, almost knocking it down. She received much of the lightning energy. The rest went on long and was lost in the sky and then into the void of space. Stage F was close. Our hero sighed, floating and moving away from the canyon, descending to join his family and friends. The few spectators praised the heroes with applause and photos. "Well, son, if your rocket boots were served or not," said Jack Fenton with his arms on his hips in a presumed tone. "Yes, Dad, in the end, copying what you saw in that old cartoon served as something, yes, but you better not relax, Fenton. You still have to catch the giant," Sam reminded her boyfriend. "Well, okay, I'm coming. Will you wait for me here?" he said coquettishly, while carrying her chin. Of course she smiled. "Yeah, sure, I'm fine too, thanks." Tucker got up, saying that, dusting off his clothes. "Heck, sorry, but Danny helped him clean the dirt off his shirt. Can I borrow the thermos?" "Yes, of course." He gave him the thermos. Danny took flight and headed to where Desiree landed. Sam stayed with the Fenton and Tucker on stage. Jack was curious about the cannon and approached to analyze it. Tuck began to collect the remains of his destroyed laptop with a melancholy face, another of his babies fallen in battle. While the girls Maddie and Sam made sure that nobody has been injured by the fight, they also had to keep the spectators away from the place. There was no danger, but they needed to make sure that Desiree left no hidden surprise. Then what they were planning this time, Maddie asked her possible daughter-in-law. Basically, Desiree and Amber wanted to make all the men of the East Coast fall in love with them, so Desiree concentrated on granting wishes related to love and lust, and Amber absorbed that energy in her guitar. Then they organized this concert. They used Amber's mind control to gather even more energy. It was so much that they accumulated the cannon. Where did it point? A pair of TV satellites. The laser would bounce between them, amplifying its power, return to the surface and hit an emitting antenna, spreading the spell across the country. Why didn't they just hypnotize everyone with Amber's music? They did that several times. They have to change strategy, don't you think? It reminds me, when me and Jack stopped those three witches, heh. It was true fun, except the part of pretending to be Danny. You're becoming a better Ghostbuster, Sam. Your progress in these years impresses me. Sam blushed a little. Well, thanks to you and Danny, I have a lot of experience. Oh, by the way, your mini gas grenades worked well, Mrs. Fenton. Oh dear, I already told you many times to call me Maddie. Yes, well, Maddie, it was still uncomfortable to call her that. It's been 2 years since she and Danny started dating, and she knew his parents since long before, but even with all that, it was still a little difficult to feel part of the family for her. How much more would it continue like this? Changing the subject, how are you and Danny? For Sam, that was not much change of subject. Well, good days, bad days, but generally well. Heh, how many times did you kids break up already? 3? 4, Sam growled, raising 4 fingers. Don't get bitter about that, Sam. If you broke up and came back 4 times in 2 years, I think the relationship is stronger than ever. The conversation was already getting awkward for the gothic girl he hated. Tuck. Do you need help? Yes, help me organize a funeral, the poor techno nerd shouted in anguish, hugging what was once his new laptop. Jack Fenton comforted the young man by putting his hands on his shoulders. No man should bury his computer, he said. Sam just frowned. In the mountains, Danny had just arrived. Attentive around him, he approached the crater where Desiree had landed. The dust had already dissipated when he saw her. There was the ghost Jen, unconscious, lying face up, and back to normal size with her clothes slightly damaged. Danny took out the thermos and prepared to catch her when he noticed something. Her bra had torn apart considerably. A large part of her breasts were visible to the boy. The fabric barely covered her nipples. 16 years old, still full of hormones and without experience in second base, our hero felt his face turn red and could not help staring at her for a moment. Danny tried to look at another part of his body. It was when he noticed her hips. Did she always was so curvy? He could not tell if she had those gorgeous hips back when she was alive, since she directly had no legs. However, the position in which she was lying, as her long hair was scattered between her back and the stones, made her look a little erotic. Not counting the bumps and dust, the unconscious girl began to move. She was waking up. Danny was startled and began to think of something to say, so that his enemy did not give himself the wrong idea. because already in case she hated him, it would be worse if he thought he was doing something strange while he slept. Desiree was coming back to herself, trying to remember what happened. What happened? How did I get here? What is this feeling? She sat where she was and looked at her body. She had scratches and bumps, but they didn't hurt. In fact, she felt very good. Answering your question, Danny began to speak with a serious, half-forced tone. This caught the attention of the girl, who saw Danny floating in front of her, talking. Desiree just stared at him. All her attention was suddenly on him. I do not use my power only for myself, because I have seen what doing that does to oneself. I have people who appreciate me since before these powers, and I do not intend to scare it away. Once I was tempting, but learning from my mistakes and the mistakes of others, I could move on and be better. And now that everyone knows my identity, I have an obligation to defend my world from the Phantom Menace, because that way I can be a good example for others and motivate them to be better, a better world. That is my dream. Someone has to do it. Desiree didn't say or say anything, just kept looking at the ghost boy with his eyes wide open and an expression of stupefaction. Danny took advantage of that and opened the thermos, pointing at the genie girl, who was set into it, before he realized it, and personally said the boy, closing the lid of the thermos. I already became fond of this work, and our hero flew in the direction of where his family and friends were, with a triumphant look. He flew thinking about that look on Desiree's face. It was rare, pure surprise and helplessness. She always had the smug or furious look, but this time Danny made her eat his words. She was impressed by the great defeat at the hands of his enemy, or so he thought. Danny got to where the Fenton team was, and they realized that the media were coming. Danny and Sam were no longer interested in talking to journalists, so he carried her in his arms and flew away. Tucker and the Fentons stayed to tell what had happened, so the city would be calm that their mayor, together with the ghost-hunting family, saved the day once more. In the city's sky, sometimes I miss your secret identity, you know? Sam mentioned. Yes, me too, from the white-haired boy, although, escape from journalists together on such a beautiful night, it's worth it without a doubt. Hey, are you alright? Didn't they hurt you? Nat, I am fine. I just got a kick in the abdomen, nothing more. It doesn't hurt anymore. Well, you have become stronger these months, right? Yes, martial arts classes with your mom and checks paid off. You're amazing, Sam. You're always full of surprises. Heh. You know me, Fenton. I'm glad I do. With that said, Danny stopped in the air and they both kissed, in the moonlight, almost above the clouds. The perfect moment. They stared into each other's eyes. A few seconds later they were slowly descending into the city, right outside Sam's house. She got off her boyfriend's arms, and they hugged each other for another kiss that lasted longer than the last. See you tomorrow. See you at school, handsome. And she said goodbye, kissing him in the air. Danny caught the kiss, winked, and flew away. The girl happily entered her house and prepared to sleep. Danny reached Fenton Labs and descended to the basement where the new portal to the Ghost Zone was, which had been rebuilt since Danny destroyed it at the time when he tried to be 100% human again. He inserted the Fenton thermos into a special tubes connected to the portal, which sent both ghosts directly back to their origin. Another day, another coin. Well, it's not that I get paid for this, the boy commented. And yawning, he returned to his human form. His new suit disappeared and showed his new casual-look blue jeans and a black shirt with the Danny Phantom logo in white, a small reference to his original suit, and above the shirt, a fabric white color jacket with collar and sleeve edges in a reddish-brown color. The young black-haired boy went upstairs and prepared to sleep. While doing so, he chatted with his friend Tucker on his cell phone, who told him that everything had gone well with the media and that his parents were already on their way home. With this, Danny relaxed even more, went to his room and get into bed. Ceiling of his room, he was excited to return to school tomorrow, but he was also exhausted by the fight just before. Why did they have to attack just the last night before returning to class? It probably cost him to wake up tomorrow. Trying to comfort the dream, Danny thought of all the enemies he had defeated so far: Sculler, Johnny 13, Spectra, Kitty, Freak Show, even the Ghost King. Even his worst enemy, Vlad, rather Plasmius, was missing somewhere in space, with no sign of ever coming back. Danny was already a veteran in this. Even today he did not feel like a big deal. He was almost always about to lose, but he was never alone in this. His family and friends were always for him. That's why he always won. Even the city he gave him his general support. And now, he was finally with the girl of his dreams, who ironically was always by his side. Honestly, I don't need anything else, thought our hero. I just need to continue studying, graduate, see if I can become an astronaut, and meanwhile remain Danny Phantom. From what happened with that meteorite, the ghosts no longer attack so much. Moreover, some have become more friendly. What Desiree said makes no sense. Maybe 2 years ago I would have considered it, but today I would not throw away everything I've built, for simple reason. Danny remembered Desiree, that problematic Jinn. It had always been the same with her. It's always a danger, so Danny stops her. When that happens, the hatred between them grows, yet something different happened tonight. She talked to him a little more personally. She seemed to be tempting him to be a villain in some way. Surely she wanted to prove something, that all men are equal inside. She really hates men. What a pity, Danny thought again. As beautiful she is, she could have anyone in the Phantom Zone. Then he realized what he thought Desiree beautiful. No, I mean, it is not that I think that it is not beautiful or anything, but then in his mind showed the image of unconscious Desiree, with the chest almost exposed. I only say that she has a good look to be a ghost. That's all after all. Ghosts always look scary, skeletal or even rotten. Apart from her green skin and dark circles, Desiree wasn't that scary. Maybe her loud voice, when she screams, but usually she speaks in a soft, calm, almost seductive voice. The image did not leave his head. She has a good body, I guess, or he had it. When she was alive, I think he blushed and felt warm at the thought of her in that position. But also then he remembered, when she put her face close to him, her red eyes, apart from the color, were quite pretty. Her fleshy lips, that confident and relaxed smile. Her face is also very beautiful, and her calm voice. It is engraved in my mind. Someone with your life, having your power, would do what he wanted. Are you not interested in knowing what that is? His words, those images of her. He never felt this before. Why now? Well, it's not like it's going to change anything. She's his enemy, and that's it. She hates him, and he shouldn't mind. And why? She is a ghost and he is a human half. They are enemies, and she has selfish ambitions, and he will not allow her to harm someone. Besides, he already has staff, and he's very happy to have her. He thinks he even loves her. Well, I'm still a teenager. I guess I stimulate myself for those things. Normally it will go away eventually. With that last thought, he concentrated on sleeping, and in a few minutes he fell asleep. Just to have a sexy dream. In the ghost zone, Eric, I can't believe it. This time we were very careful. We should have taken them by surprise, but they realized how it happened? Amber shouted furiously, echoing in the void. Desiree said nothing. Hey, Desiree just covered her chest with her arms, was absorbed in her thoughts. Are you listening? Parody of Aladdin? If you had not drawn so much attention to those ridiculous desires, they would not have suspected anything. Then Amber put her hand on his shoulder. Don't touch me. A huge green claw almost cuts Amber in half. Desiree changed the shape of her arm and a movement moved away from her exili, flying at high speed from there. That's it, I'll just be solo, mentioned the rock star, and she left with a frown. A few miles away, the giant was still in her own world, flying through the debris of the ghostly dimension, approached a certain mound of floating mountains. Hidden on one side of the mountain, a small mansion in ruins, or rather a small ancient Arabic palace, with a decadent style, but still with an imposing, elegant and feminine appearance. Desiree entered her home and went straight to her room, the most comfortable and best decorated room in the palace. As a ghost, she does not need to eat, sleep or bathe. But having her own comfort zone pleased her quite a bit. Just as she was going to lie on her bed, she looked sideways at a large full-body mirror that she had on her wall. Then she contemplated the deplorable state in which her clothes were, especially her bra, which had large holes, almost showing her nipples. That image reminded her about the big size of her chest. Few times someone mentioned aloud about her physical appearance. When she was alive, her body was her only source of income, home, food, pleasure, all because of her beauty and her skill for belly dance. Since her death, she made it clear that he despises men, not only for what happened to the Sultan, but for all the years living as a sexual object of those animals, until, when she became a wandering spirit, she saw how selfish and despicable the men were. Never in life did she consider something like love, much less in death. Why think of love now? She did not know. Just arranged her clothes with magic, went to the bathroom and prepared her tub with hot water and put salts and soaps. She did not need them, but she loved and relaxed to feel that on her skin. She undressed, get into the tub and remove the frustration and pain of defeat in the hot water, closed her eyes and thought about what happened. As soon as she closed them, he only saw the ghost boy looking at her from above, talking about his ideology. He looked different from all the other times she faced him. He no longer looked like a child. He had grown up. He was not yet an adult, but he was in the prime of his life. And he lacked a lot to live. Youth is not eternal. She knows it well, because she died of age and a broken heart. However, the young face of the teenager was engraved in her mind, those green eyes shining in the night, snow-white hair, and the uniform made him look more masculine. Why can't I stop thinking about his face? What he said is also echoing in my head again and again. I don't use my power just for myself, because I've seen what doing that does to oneself. Did he mean me? Well, he has many enemies, so maybe not, but does he try to be different? All men are equal according to my experience. All say they seek to be different, but all end up betraying themselves and everyone. Enemy. Desiree suffered abandonment and indifference of her masters in the past. This child seeks to be different, During these 2 past years he risked his life to save this town full of ignorant people. He even became world famous and yet always evades the media, and not looking to highlight. So what does he want? That is, what does that child want? He has fame, respect, he just lacks some power. He already has everything a human wants, but what are his deepest desires? Then she dipped her head into the water, giving her a very pleasant sensation. Then she got out of the tub, dried herself with magic, and made a pair of beautiful cyanide gowns, got into her bed full of silk fabrics, and prepared to take a nap just for pleasure and forget a bit of what happened tonight. That face, I want to see it again. Boy, I mean Danny, I'll discover your desires, and you won't see me coming. With that said, she fell asleep. Desires Chapter 2, a new phase. Along with the sunrise, a new year begins at Amity Park High School, as young people get out of bed and prepare to start a new challenge this year. That includes our hero, who was leaving his house, ready to pick up his girlfriend and enjoy a new day in his life. He took his keys and unlocked his car and got in. Danny's car was quite modern style, a black sports model with green fire decals, greenish windows giving the vehicle an even more modern style. It was a car that attracted attention, but was the idea in general for her part. Sam was waiting quietly at the entrance of her house. Her boyfriend arrived in that striking black car, and with a warm smile, she entered. After kissing Danny, they headed to school. Sam said, "Why do you insist on using this? Flying is more peaceful, yes, but the company wants to promote it. Also, I can't walk as a civilian because the fans fall on me." "Oh yes, well at least you made it electric." "Yeah, Mom and Dad had a lot of fun renewing it in the city. People lived their lives in peace, having their hero among them." As he was driving his car through the streets, many people observed the beautiful vehicle but did not know who was there, thanks to the reflective windows. Both kids chatted as they drove to school. With 1 block left to go, Danny stopped and parked in an inconspicuous spot. The two got off and headed for school. "Hey Dan, what's up?" "Thanks for your work, boy Danny, you are the best." Those were comments that our hero received daily. He never get tired of that, but he was no longer excited, as he was a time ago. His girlfriend was holding his arm, another school year about to start. All the students gathered at the beginning of the course ceremony, which was brief. Then they all went to their classrooms, where Danny and Sam took seats next to each other. Everything was normal until the classroom door opened, and what came in was more than unexpected. A robot, or something like it, was basically an LED display with a long neck, military-style wheels, and slim robotic arms at the sides with tweezers instead of hands. Everyone stood there staring at the strange device until the screen was static. Then Joe Tucker Foley, the youngest mayor in Amity Park history, sitting at his desk. "Hello everyone, I'm sorry I'm late," Tuck said from his seat. "Tuck, what are you doing now?" Danny asked his friend. "It finally happened. He turned himself into a machine," Sam said, leaning her elbow on her desk and bowing her head in mockery. Some students chuckle at the comment. "How funny. As you well know, I have been the mayor of this city for almost 2 years now," the young man declared proudly, "but my work has become more demanding lately, so I designed this drone to allow me Danny to do social life at school. While he was speaking, he approved some papers with his sealant. The robot sat next to Danny. Well, okay, let's start with another year, declared Mr. Lancer, entering the room. I hope you had a good summer, because this year you are expecting some very rigid subjects and I do not plan to consent. Nabo, he interrupted himself when noticing the Tucker's bro, who smiled, as if nothing saw nobody. Not even you, Mr. Mayor. I suppose he is the big brother watching over me now. The first class was math. That went smoothly except for Danny, because it was harder now to ask Tuck for help. After in Spanish class and after the literature class, also with Mr. Lancer, it was lunchtime. It was a beautiful day. So the trio went out to eat at one of the tables right by a tree. Danny had the delicious tuna sandwich for lunch, Sam her vegan salad, and Tucker enjoyed delicious roast beef accompanied by bacon from his office. So are we going to have to see your face on the screen from now on? Danny asked Nat. Just until my term ends, he replied before eating a good piece of bacon. We're going to graduate by then, Sam reminded him. Exactly. I will skip all the teasing and awkward moments from high school and go straight to the main course. The prom, Tucker said, the latter with a smug look. Sam, do you think you will have a date by then? Tucker, sure. Mayor Foley, at the end of his term, one of the city's three greatest heroes, single and recently graduated with honors from high school. It will be easy, even now. With that said, the mayor Drone got up from the table and went with a group of cheerleaders who, believe me or not, the robot aroused a certain curiosity, even more so talking to the mayor in person. Heh, I guess girls do like politics, Dan commented. No, not really, replied Sam. Danny, hey, but seriously, I'm glad to see you with more confidence and skill. Sam, being appointed mayor, gave him confidence. Danny, yes, but well, he got depressed after Valerie, Sam said sadly. Danny just nodded. After what happened with the asteroid, his relationship with Valerie Gray was further complicated. The girl, who at first was Tuck's interest, later became almost a relationship with Danny without knowing his secret identity. While she loved Danny the boy, Danny the ghost was something else. She saw him as a threat, and that's why she became a ghost hunter on her own and in a high-tech suit. Both had several confrontations. She refused to have a relationship with Danny for fear of putting his life in danger, but when Danny saved the planet from the asteroid and revealed his identity, she changed her mind about him and the ghosts. They even worked together for a while defending the city. It was obvious that she still had feelings for Danny, but he had just started his relationship with Sam, so Val had no choice but to resign. Luckily, at that time, Tucker got closer and closer to Valerie, improving her suit and chatting about what they knew about ghosts. His old interest returned until it became feelings, and Valerie began to like the boy. She no longer saw him just as a techno nerd. He was kind, charismatic, and honest. Before they knew it, they had already had a few dates. Their relationship was a bit complicated, because he, being the mayor and both being students, they had little time together. Their favorite moments were when they teamed up in combat. Valerie seemed happy, or so it seemed. Tuck noticed that and tried to comfort her, to be honest with him. But Val didn't want to worry the boy anymore. Everything changed when one day she just didn't go to school, without telling anyone. Her boyfriend, worried, left before school and went straight to the Gray's house, only to find Val's dad crying with a note in her hand. Dad, friends, I'm sorry for leaving just like that. I know how much this will affect you, but I need some time to think. More than that, I think I don't know who I'm right now. I promise I will come back when I am ready. I love you all very much, Tucker. Sorry for doing this to you, but you deserve someone better than me, who would rather attack others than listen to the truth. You are a great boy. You deserve someone to trust, and I want you to know that being with you was the best thing happened to me in life. Good luck. With love, Valerie. Gray. Tucker's happiness plummeted from that moment. He made up for it by working hard at his mayoral career, but the pain was not easy to ignore. His friends did not abandon him. They supported him and bearing the pain. Even Sam had cared for the girl, and she thought leaving like that wasn't her thing. They even used Fenton technology to find her, but she was too good at hiding her tracks. In the end, Tuck decided not to obsess over her anymore and move on, but Danny knew it. Deep down, his friend blamed himself, but the boy's determination gradually surpassed his broken heart. Inspired by Danny's courage in battle, Tuck stood up and moved on. Though in pain, it had been 6 months since anyone knew anything about Valerie. It was as if the earth had swallowed her. Everyone missed her, but there was nothing more to do but wait. Danny sighed, thinking of his friends. Both Val and Tuck were hurt, and he didn't know how to help. Suddenly he felt his girlfriend's warm hand on his. She looked him straight in the eyes with a warm smile. Those purple eyes are everything what he needed to have hope in his heart. He squeezed her hand gently when he was going to kiss her. He felt another hand on his shoulder that surprised him. Hi, Danny, are you feeling okay? Oh, hello, Paulina. Yes, the Latin girl. Most popular in school, as beautiful as usual, wearing a sky blue blouse and white denim pants with black boots, and she had straightened her hair. She sat on the table without asking permission right next to Danny. On the other side, Sam looked upset. Danny just frowned and rolled his eyes up, not looking her in the eye, focused on finishing his sandwich. Do you need something? Asked the goth with an indifferent tone to the brunette. Why so upset, Manson? I only saw that my old friend was melancholic and I wanted to give a hand, the girl explained, touching the shoulder of Danny again, caressing him. Well, thanks, I am fine now. If you don't mind, do you give us a little privacy? The boy said with a clearly annoyed tone. Oh, of course. I did not want to interrupt anything, she winked, and with a natural tone of voice. Enjoy your lunch. But Danny, if you want to talk, or if you are bored of certain companies, do not hesitate to talk to me. There is always room to you in my agenda, she declared with a seductive face, and he left, wagging her hips. Really, can you be more hypocritical? Danny whispered, as he charred what was left of his sandwich with plasma energy which concentrated in his hand, until there was nothing left but ash. If you get angry, she wins. Sam reminded her, remember that, and you can ignore her. Danny and Paulina had a fairly short relationship. It was during Danny and Sam's first breakup. Paulina took advantage of the situation and approached the boy. She had also been in love with Danny Phantom for a long time. Their relationship was almost the same as the time Kitty possessed Paulina's body. They were both the center of attention at the school, and probably the city. They were the couple of the year. They even appeared in magazines and newspapers. How could they not? Danny was world famous and Paulina's family was considerably rich. Everything seemed fine for both of them, but the relationship was more because of the attention and glamour. Danny enjoyed popularity and Paulina became more and more famous. She was not like Sam, who is more reserved and would prefer to use that influence to help the environment or something. Over time, Danny felt like there was no real love connection between the two. It was something more physical. Paulina was more interested in the ghost boy than the boy himself, and they had nothing in common. Danny tried to get closer to her emotionally, but it was no use. The point of no return was when he discovered her kissing dash. Danny surprised them and dumped her at once. Paulina tried to apologize, but the boy has already made his decision. Even Dash repented. He always admired Danny Phantom, although he bullied Danny Fenton, and after knowing that the two were the same guy, he no longer knew how to interact with him. But after a time the two formed mutual respect. But having ruined his relationship with Paulina made him feel miserable. Since then he and Paulina have done everything possible to get Danny back with her, but obviously it was useless. He no longer felt anything for the Latina. In less than a month he returned to Sam, but back to the present. The bell rang signaling the end of lunch. Danny and his girlfriend stopped and headed back to the building, but before entering they found someone. Danny, Professor Lanter? How is it going, Fenton? He replied, as he sipped his coffee. Well, but shouldn't you go into the classroom now? Now we have history class and you always come to class first. Well, not this year, Fenton. It turns out that they made a last-minute change in administration. They will put a new teacher in charge of that matter. Lancer read a textbook. While he spoke, he seemed calm, but deep down he was a little annoyed, as he liked to teach that subject. New teacher? And do you know anything about it? Sam asked curiously. Nothing, except that she is young, foreign, and has just moved to the city. Danny looked at Sam, who shrugged, and they headed to their classroom. In the classroom everyone was ready to start the afternoon classes, the trio sitting as before, some students standing or gathered in one place talking. Until Principal Ishiyama arrived at the door announcing, "Good afternoon, please take a seat everyone, in a moment your new history teacher will arrive. It is her first week, so please behave. I do not want anyone to complicate her existence, understood?" "Yes," some students answered. The principal retired and the kids began to speculate about it. How she will be? "I'm sure she is an old woman. Will she be very strict?" "She is a rookie. We will surely scare her." The students muttered those things. Danny talked to his friends. "So a foreigner, well, she will surely be thrilled to be able to teach the mayor of such a famous city." Tucker smiled smugly. "Yes, or the world-renowned superhero," added Danny. Cough. "Testosterone, cough, cough," Sam whispered, but then the door opened, and whoever entered surprised everyone. She was a young woman, definitely in her 20s, tall, beautiful brunette skin, light blue eyes, straight black hair tangled in a bent ponytail, and a thick fringe that covered one of her eyes but did not entirely hide her beautiful face. She was wearing a purple lipstick. She wore a white button-down shirt and short sleeves with a slight neckline, although being so tight she could not hide the striking size of her attributes. She wore white-rimmed glasses, gold earrings and a black miniskirt that highlighted her feminine thick hips and showed off her dreamy legs that ended in small yet elegant black heels. Everyone was speechless before the beautiful teacher, who, without being surprised by the reaction of the kids, she simply left her brown purse on the side of her desk. Then she sat on it looking straight at the class. "Good afternoon, my children," she said with a warm smile. She looked confident and relaxed. "I'm Miss Morgan. I will be your history teacher this year. I hope we get along well." "Sure we will," they answered in unison, almost all the males, except one, which really upset the girls. "Well, then," she took out a board and a pen, "let's start getting to know each other better. I will go through the list to learn their names." "Okay." Everyone nodded and the teacher began to name one by one in alphabetical order. Each one answered. The girls began to murmur among themselves, while the boys were gawking at what they had in front of them, except for one. "Danny Fenton?" here replied the boy, whose expression was somewhat serious. He was looking at the young lady, but not like the others did. There was something about that woman that immediately caught Danny's attention, something that made him alert, something familiar. "So you are the famous superhero, huh?" the young woman said, as she approached with slow but firm steps to the boy's desk. Everyone was silent when they saw that scene. How would the new teacher react when meeting him? The new teachers were very nervous to learn that they would have to teach a hero like Danny, but Morgan did not seem to be. He seemed to have anticipated it. Danny just nodded. The teacher put her hand on the desk and the two looked each other straight in the eye. "Well, Mr. Fenton, I don't doubt that you're a good student, but don't think that you will receive special treatment from me just because I'm new." Morgan raised an eyebrow. "Don't worry, believe it or not, I'm used to not being special," the boy answered with a confident smile. "I think we'll get along well, miss." Everyone watched what was happening, and only for a few seconds a tense silence was felt in the air. Two girls in particular did not like what they saw. "Excellent, I hope so, but I say that for everyone, okay?" she said, looking at the rest of the class. "I do not have favorites, no matter their families, reputation, or whatever. You are my students, so I hope you all try hard." She said that with a serious tone, and that took by surprise the rest of the class. "Do I made myself clear?" Almost yelling. "Yes," answered all the students. "That means you too." Mayor Foley Tucker answered with a smile and raising his two thumbs. "With that said," she finished roll call and said, "Very well, let's start." The teacher went to the blackboard and continued to teach the class. Everything went without apparent problem. The students were attentive to everything Miss Morgan did, especially the men, attentive in case she dropped a pencil or something like that. The girls were just looking for something negative to talk about, but she seemed to have no fault. She was beautiful, smart, and gave an aura that conveyed respect. "Our teacher will arrive. It is her first week, so please behave. I do not want anyone to complicate her existence. Understood?" "Yes," some students answered. The principal retired and the kids began to speculate about it. "How she will be? I'm sure she is an old woman. Will she be very strict? She is a rookie. We will surely scare her." The students muttered those things. Danny talked to his friends. "So a foreigner, well, she will surely be thrilled to be able to teach the mayor of such a famous city." Tucker smiled smugly. "Yes, or the world-renowned superhero," added Danny. Cough. "Testosterone, cough, cough," Sam whispered, but then the door opened, and whoever entered surprised everyone. She was a young woman, definitely in her 20s, tall, beautiful brunette skin, light blue eyes, straight black hair tangled in a bent ponytail. and a thick fringe that covered one of her eyes but did not entirely hide her beautiful face. She was wearing a purple lipstick. She wore a white button-down shirt and short sleeves with a slight neckline, although being so tight she could not hide the striking size of her attributes. She wore white-rimmed glasses, gold earrings, and a black miniskirt that highlighted her feminine thick hips and showed off her dreamy legs that ended in small yet elegant black heels. Everyone was speechless before the beautiful teacher, who, without being surprised by the reaction of the kids, she simply left her brown purse on the side of her desk. Then she sat on it looking straight at the class. "Good afternoon, my children," she said with a warm smile. She looked confident and relaxed. "I'm Miss Morgan. I will be your history teacher this year. I hope we get along well." "Sure we will," they answered in unison, almost all the males, except one, which really upset the girls. "Well, then," she took out a board and a pen, "let's start getting to know each other better. I will go through the list to learn their names." "Okay." Everyone nodded and the teacher began to name one by one in alphabetical order. Each one answered. The girls began to murmur among themselves, while the boys were gawking at what they had in front of them, except for one. "Danny Fenton?" here replied the boy, whose expression was somewhat serious. He was looking at the young lady, but not like the others did. There was something about that woman that immediately caught Danny's attention, something that made him alert, something familiar. "So you are the famous superhero, huh?" the young woman said, as she approached with slow but firm steps to the boy's desk. Everyone was silent when they saw that scene. How would the new teacher react when meeting him? The new teachers were very nervous to learn that they would have to teach a hero like Danny, but Morgan did not seem to be. He seemed to have anticipated it. Danny just nodded. The teacher put her hand on the desk and the two looked each other straight in the eye. "Well, Mr. Fenton, I don't doubt that you're a good student, but don't think that you will receive special treatment from me just because I'm new." Morgan raised an eyebrow. "Don't worry, believe it or not, I'm used to not being special," the boy answered with a confident smile. "I think we'll get along well, miss." Everyone watched what was happening, and only for a few seconds a tense silence was felt in the air. Two girls in particular did not like what they saw. "Excellent, I hope so, but I say that for everyone, okay?" she said, looking at the rest of the class. "I do not have favorites, no matter their families, reputation, or whatever. You are my students, so I hope you all try hard." She said that with a serious tone, and that took by surprise the rest of the class. "Do I made myself clear?" Almost yelling. "Yes," answered all the students. "That means you too." Mayor Foley Tucker answered with a smile and raising his two thumbs. "With that said," she finished roll call and said, "Very well, let's start." The teacher went to the blackboard and continued to teach the class. Everything went without apparent problem. The students were attentive to everything Miss Morgan did, especially the men, attentive in case she dropped a pencil or something like that. The girls were just looking for something negative to talk about, but she seemed to have no fault. She was beautiful, smart, and gave an aura that conveyed respect, of authority that made you question challenging her. She knew a lot about her stuff. They were seeing what the rains were like in ancient Arabia, and Morgan gave precise and fascinating details about that time. She even brought images about the dresses of that time and how those fashions still influenced today. This fascinated the girls in the classroom, who started to like the teacher, except for two. Sam and Paulina were looking askance at both Morgan and Danny, who had a different expression than usual. Seeing this new teacher caused him something different, something that itched behind his head. He did not know what it was, but his phantom sense was not activated. Not even the tracking devices that he and Sam brought reacted to her. But there was no reason to let your guard down. There could always be enemies like Freak Shout or the Men in White, humans who are not on good terms with Danny. So our hero was looking at the miss intently, attentive to some clue. Unfortunately for him, from the point of view of his girlfriend, he did not look that way. Sam felt that Danny's gaze was not that kind of curiosity. Paulina also noticed that the teacher calls attention more than she was one thing, but that her ex looks at her all the time was another thing. Classes ended and everyone left school. Danny and his friends went out together. Tuck and Danny talked about the task they had been left with. Sam did not speak to either, but she did not separate from his boyfriend. Well guys, I have to retire. In an hour I have to open a dog orphanage. Call me when you go out on patrol, okay? Danny raised his thumb and Tucker's drone retracted his arms and neck. The screen showed the logo of the town hall with a black background. It turned upwards. Then small propellers came out that allowed the drone to take flight, going straight towards the town hall. Well Sam, I take you home? Danny asked his girlfriend, but no thanks. Sam just curtly retreated in the opposite direction of the boy. Danny noticed that sides turned into a ghost, and seconds later he appeared coming out of the ground using his intangibility right in front of Sam. We already talked about this, Sam. If you are upset, tell me. Don't keep it. Danny said this with a loving tone. Well, I'm not very happy that you drool over the new teacher, she answered with a very annoying tone. That's not. I wasn't. Wait. Sam was about to leave, but Danny is not willing to let her go without talking to her. Seriously? Do you really think I would look at a teacher like that? Yes, you're a boy after all. She turned her back on him. Did you forget what happened the last time I noticed someone only because of their appearance? He cheated on me with an idiot. Sam turned his head, looked at him sideways with an annoyed look and raised eyebrow. Not with any idiot. With dash. Sam looked straight at the boy with a frown. Well, if you don't learn something from that, then I don't know how exactly. Do you really think I would look at another one having you after everything we went through? The boy approached his girlfriend and took her by the shoulders. You are the only one for me. You compliment me. Danny returned to his human form and looked at her with those blue eyes that she loved to see. Sam growled, closed her eyes and dropped to her boyfriend's chest, and he hugged her. Why can't I be mad at you? She said in a pout. You always are, but that's why you love me so much, Danny said mockingly. The couple kissed, and Danny began to explain. I just don't trust her, Danny said, holding Sam with his right arm. There is something about her that gives me a bad feeling. Me too, but I doubt it's the same as you. Why you say that? Girl stuff anyway. I feel something, I don't know, familiar in her, as if I've seen her before. And you ghost sense? Nothing. Do you think we should watch her? No, not yet until now. It's just a feeling. I don't want to attack and traumatize an innocent again. Well, if you say so, I will keep my guard up. The goth smiled at him. Danny returned the smile. But when you're close to her, your eyes had better be glued to the books. Heh, promise. With that they kissed again and walked to where they parked the car. And from the shadows of an alley a female figure emerged. Miss Morgan had heard everything. Well, it seems the boy doesn't let his guard down so easily, she thought aloud, smiling. Then a pink ring appeared on her from her abdomen, surrounding her. The ring divided into two, one went up and the other down. As they separated, they were erasing the shape of the teacher, revealing her true shape. Green skin, pretty straight black hair, a light blue Harlem Dancer outfit, and bright blood red eyes. Desiree was in the middle of the sidewalk. Okay, Danny, my boy, we have a whole school year ahead of us. Do you want to play cat and mouse? I will enjoy playing with your little mind. So she became invisible and flew off to her new home. Now a new game was about to begin, and she was going to enjoy it immensely.
XJ Kenny, he's got 12.1k watchers, 3.2 M page views, and 3.8k deviations. Catized, I probably butchered that. She has 433 watchers, 37.6k page views, and 200 deviations. Coming to us from Mexico, it's Crow Sam. She has 10.9k watchers, 1.3 M page views, Coming to us from Mexico is Scarlet Ghost X. She has 2.1k watchers, 317.3 page views, and 709 deviations. Coming to us from Spain, it's Mary Puff. He has 321 watchers, 61k page views, and 117 deviations. Coming to us from Spain, it's J. Luffy. I probably butchered that. He has 6.5k watchers, Coming to us from Peru, it's Amethyst Ocean. She has 13.2k watchers, 806.1k page views, and 222 deviations. Coming to us from Canada is Echo Heart X. She has 1.6k watchers, 148.7k page views, and 533 deviations.